Okay, everyone, welcome to the last talk of the day for this theater. So nice to see everyone really engaged. On BSidesSF 2025, you are in Theater 14. Used to be called Theater 15. Don't get confused if you see a difference between those two. You are in 14. Your schedule might say 15 if you're in the talk here. For this particular talk, you're totally fine. You're in the right spot. This being the last talk of the day, let's just go through some quick announcements here about what's going on here in the building. Everything kind of shuts down right at 5 o'clock. So at the end of this talk, all of the stuff upstairs, the vendor booths, the bar, if that was important to you, that shuts down. And all that will be left is closing ceremonies in Theater 13. If you have something in the coat check, you get 2 more extra hours to work on that. But that coat check shuts down at 7. So don't leave anything there that is important to you. And, well, with that, I think we're really set to start. Let's talk about Slido real fast. Hopefully you have used Slido somewhat during the day. Slido is how we do question and answers. That is sli.do. That is a website you can go to. You type in the code for the conference, which is BSidesSF 2025. And then we're in Theater 15, technically, according to Slido. So don't freak up about that. Theater 15 is where you go to post questions. I'll read that again as we get to question and answer time. That being said, let's take it away now for our next and final talk, which is, I believe, let me get this right, Understanding IRSF Fraud and Protecting Against SMS Exploitation by Vien and Senthil Sivasubramanian.
Thanks, Jeremy, for the little bit intro. Hi all. Thanks for joining for the last presentation on the last day of the B-Sides. Hope you guys are having a lot of fun. Today we'll talk about understanding IRSF fraud, protecting against SMS exploitation. There's nothing to do with Internal Revenue Service or tax or anything related to that. It's something related to a different kind of a fraud activity that happens through SMS exploitation. A quick poll I want to just ask, raise your hand if you have never heard about IRSF fraud ever in your life before. I think I've seen a couple of hands over there. Raise your hand, you have heard about it, you have dealt with it in your past life, or you have worked on protecting. I see one hand over there. Last question, raise your hand, you want to learn about IRSF and you want to be a scammer. I see a couple of hands. I thought there would be nobody, but yeah. Okay, hopefully we'll see if you are going to become a scammer or not. A little bit of quick intro. My name is Senthil. I lead the identity engineering team at Gusto, and Gusto is a people people platform which enables small businesses to run their business. We provide the HR, payroll, lifecycle management, benefits solution for small businesses. Previously, I was doing the same identity and security at Box and AWS and McAfee before. Vien?
Thanks, Senthil. My name is Vien. I'm a senior engineer working with Senthil at Gusto on the identity team. Previously, I was at an alcohol distribution startup called LibDib. Before that, I was at a cloud access security broker firm called Big Glass. And Elsa is my first tech job. It's an English learning speech assistant. I'll hand it back to Senthil.
Thanks, Vien. Before we jump into the details about the presentation, I would like to give us some information about the terminology that we are going to use here. First is an IRSF fraud, which is an international revenue share fraud, which is especially fraudsters tend to generate a lot of SMS or voice traffic to international premium rate numbers. We'll talk in detail about this presentation later. The next one is an artificially inflated traffic. These are small businesses or fraudsters who run businesses where they generate a lot of SMS traffic to generate revenue through that. The next one is an SMS pumping. So SMS pumping is basically a high volume of SMS traffic is generated by fraudsters on apps or mobile carrier networks, especially to see that there are vulnerabilities in those networks or not, thereby gaining financial advantage over it. The last one is a toll fraud, which is specifically like unauthorized individuals or users try to get into your system. It could be like not just like your app or service, it could be your phone network system, voicemail system. Thereby they make a lot of international calls, and thereby they generate a lot of money out of it also. Before we get into the details, I want to give us some landscape of these kind of fraud activities that happen and the financial losses that have happened in the past. The first one is a Remax, where a realtor business was hacked by, the phone system on a realtor business was hacked by fraudsters. And they made a lot of phone calls through their phone system through international numbers. Thereby, they got a huge bill of almost $600,000 over a weekend. The next one is a doctor's office, where this was a sort of a sophisticated attack where fraudster gained access into the doctor's office phone voicemail system, and thereby turned on a callback feature. To give a description about a callback feature is, the callback feature is basically you call the doctor office over a weekend and then you say, hey doctor, can you just call me back on when you receive this call or after the weekend? And then they leave a callback number. So what the fraudsters did is they were sophisticated. They turned on the callback feature. Thereby, when you leave a callback number, the voicemail system automatically triggered a call to the international number that the fraudster left as a callback number. Thereby, once the call was automatically triggered to the international number, the fraudsters accepted the call and then left the call open for the entire weekend. This was a very sophisticated attack where the fraudsters got almost $2 million within a weekend itself. In addition to voice call, IRSF also is specifically looks at SMS traffic also, where this one is an example for a Twitter, when Twitter got acquired, or got acquisition around 2022 or 2023. Fraudsters used a lot of SMS bots to generate a lot of fraud accounts. They signed up onto Twitter and then they used SMS as a multi-factor authentication, and then they colluded with telcos to get SMS traffic pumped into their numbers, thereby generating a lot of revenue of it. We'll talk more in details about these kind of attacks. The last one is the Communications Fraud Control Association, or in short CFCA, actually attributes almost $5 billion to the entire IRSF fraud. Before we dive into the attack, let's talk about one of the key components in the IRSF attack is the IPRN, which is an international premium rate number. Senthil, what is an international premium rate number? So international premium rate number is typically, you might have been logging, or you might have seen any talk shows or late night, or there are kind of entertainment shows like your American Idol or anywhere where you can vote for a favorite contestant, right? So that there is a concept called a premium rate number, and that's where you can vote on these premium rate numbers. And these premium rate numbers usually have usually charge a high termination fees. And we'll talk more details about how IPRNs are being used. And this is a legitimate business model where the revenue is shared between the carriers in that network while you're using the IPRN numbers. One of the other downside of this particular business model is it's highly unregulated, meaning that there are a lot of providers who generate IPRNs as a service, and individuals can use it for legitimate purposes. But TransNexus reports almost 121 providers, but unfortunately we can see that 40% of them are undisclosed, unregulated, meaning we don't even know where they operate from, who they are, how they operate. There is no regulations on them. So you can clearly see that fraudsters can take this as an advantage to use to generate a lot of revenue out of it. We'll talk the details about it in the next slides. So this, if you see, it clearly starts out as a legitimate business model, but it can be heavily abused by the fraudsters. Looking at the graph, you can see that from 2019 to 2020, we can see that IPRNs grew exponentially. Over 8 million numbers have been generated in a short span of 1 year, where fraudsters use these IPRNs as a key component for the IRSF fraud. Let's see how the fraudsters use these numbers. Oh. In this case, like SAP Research did a study in 2021, where on the left, you can see there were a lot of apps who are being targeted, and these apps are usually targeted in like countries like US, Canada, and like all of the locations. And on the right, if you can see, like where are all the SMS or voice traffic is going to from your apps. And you can primarily see like it's all like happening in Russia and like a lot of other geos outside of US, meaning the fraudsters have, as I talked about, like there is an undisclosed or like an unregulated market. These fraudsters collude with these PRN providers to take your money. Let's closer look at how the typical attack happens, right? So fraudsters collude with the PRN provider who gives you PRN numbers as a service, and what they do is they generate they log into your typical like a SaaS application, or it could be a consumer application. They log into that system, and then like let's say you have like a system where you can trigger voice or SMS calls. So the fraudsters, they get into your system and then they generate a lot of SMS or voice traffic. What you typically do is you pay like some X amount of dollars to your UCAS, which is your Unified Communications as a Service, which is typically your $1 Twilio service, where you probably pay $1 for every SMS that could be sent. Like it's probably for your OTP code, or it could be for voice traffic. You probably send like $1 for that. Then like that $sign will eventually give like at least like $30, 30 cents to the operator one. Then they give it to the international carrier, because these are all usually international premium rate numbers. And then from that, like the 70 cents, the international carrier will take almost like 20 cents and give it 50 cents to the operator too, where they actually collude with the fraudsters, thereby gaining 50 cents for every $1 that you pay. 50 cents goes to the actual fraudsters. And thereby, like there is a large amount of volume of money that is being shared between the fraudsters, where like through the SMS or the voice traffic. Next, I'll hand off to Vien to go into the deeper details about like detection and mitigation.
Thanks, Senthil. So that's why they're called international revenue share fraud. These fraudsters are colluding with each other and sharing the money with that they take from your business. Let's take a closer look at how the attacker is able to leverage your system to execute this attack. In the first screen, we see the normal sign-up flow where a user could enter their email address. They're likely to get prompted to confirm that the account via an email. After email confirmation, they're prompted to set up multiple multi-factor authentication. Usually the top two are authenticator or SMS. If they choose SMS, your application could allow a user to set up SMS with an international phone number. Once they input the phone number, a one-time password is sent to the phone, and usually on the screen, a user can request to get the code resent via text message or voice. And the attacker can automate this pretty easily with a browser script. And if these endpoints are not left unchecked, it could be a surface of attack for these fraudsters. But I mentioned earlier that an email has to be confirmed. Surely they're not creating thousands of email accounts, logging into each email inbox in order to orchestrate this attack. Well, who here has entered their email address in order to receive a 15% off discount on a website? Nice. I have as well. And who has added an extra plus sign at the end to reuse this system to get an extra code? Nice. Well, if you haven't done it, you can totally do this to get infinite glitch. But yeah, I'd like to introduce you to an old friend, email tumbling. Email tumbling is a technique where you add extra periods or plus signs in the beginning of your email address, and all of those email addresses, they will create unique accounts on the system that you're signing up as, but they all go to the same mailbox. This technique is also leveraged by QA in order to test multiple accounts in the system where they don't want to, sign up for multiple accounts in different mailboxes. It's a harmless and often overlooked technique, but it can be leveraged to generate thousands and thousands of bot accounts and orchestrate an IRSF attack. We looked at the anatomy of attack, what the potential losses for your company, and where these attacks are coming from. Let's take a look at how we can spot these attacks before they scale. First, it might seem obvious, but we can monitor for traffic spikes, specifically the endpoints that the user can trigger an SMS sent. For example, a registration endpoint where user is enrolling onto your system, or an SMS enrollment where they're setting up 2FA for the first time, an SMS verify when they need to log in with SMS, an SMS resend where they're requesting to resend the code. Voice verify can also be taken advantage of, where you're requesting the code to be sent to you via a call or a voice resend. Establish a baseline for what a normal traffic for your business looks like and alert loudly on these anomalies. You can also look at alerting on when new country codes are being used to receive text message. In this slide, you can see if your business is usually doing receiving SMS verify in one country, but you suddenly see a spike in another country, work with your SMS provider and see if they have a monitor via email or Slack that they can alert you when these traffic going to new countries is happening. If they do not, implement this yourself by monitoring for new country codes being used and being saved in your database as for SMS. You can also leverage cloud configure traffic monitoring tools like Datadog. Datadog allows us to group access logs and analyze them by user agents, IP addresses, or countries. On user agents, if a majority of traffic normally coming to the application is coming from a Mac or a Windows, and you suddenly see a spike in Linux, that could indicate a scripted and bot attacks. IP address ranges that you haven't seen accessing your site, or countries where these traffics are coming from. Make sure you familiarize yourself with your observability tools and find meaningful signals to alert on so that these alerts don't get ignored by your devs. You can also alert when there are an influx of new users signing up. This is a good time to check in with the other teams like growth or marketing. Do we have an active growth or marketing campaign that could explain the sudden influx of new users? Or these new users have suspicious email domains or patterns in their attributes like first name, last name that look kind of suspicious? Set up the alert for when these anomalies happen at different thresholds. And when these attacks are happening, these fraudulent traffic most likely hurt other channels like the sales channels as well. So it's a good opportunity to work with the other teams in your company. By now, I hope you see a pattern with the way we detect this kind of attack. Anomaly detection is the name of the game here. And although your applications could be a little different, IRSF attacks often try to abuse a very familiar onboarding user experience. With the same UX, it's often very easy to detect when an anomaly occurs. Now let's take a look at how we can mitigate these attacks. I'll talk into details about these three strategies, but to stop attacks before they start, these are some strategies you can take. You can rate limit on the anomalies that you have identified earlier. You can restrict who can use your SMS 2FA, and you can prevent these fraud users from entering your system. Let's take a closer look at the first one. Rate limits. You've identified those endpoints that the user can use to trigger SMS. Like IP, region, user, phone numbers, devices, TLS, signatures. At the firewall level, you can analyze the unique identifiers like suspicious IP range, new countries traffic is coming from, user agents that indicate a bot traffic. You can also analyze TLS signature like a J3 hash. But be careful with J3 hash to not block good traffic and good users. A good method in order to determine if J3 hash is indicating good traffic or not is analyzing the traffic at least 2 weeks in advance to see if you've seen that before. And if you haven't seen that, it's most likely a malicious traffic. And then at this application level, you can also monitor for if the same number is being used across different accounts, if the same number is being used for SMS more than 10 times a minute or 50 times a day. Do you have a device fingerprinting mechanism? That could be a good opportunity to see if the same device is accessing multiple accounts. And you can limit the blast radius by setting strict rate limit rules on these attributes. Here you see a screenshot of an example rate limit configuration on a firewall where you can set if the host name equals your website and the user agent contains a it's not going to contain IRSF, but it could contain something like Linux that you've identified as a bot traffic. You can set the URI path as those that are can trigger SMS, and you can also outright block countries if you've never seen before, or allow lists of countries you want to let traffic through. And we can also restrict users who can use SMS 2FA. I think Wendy Nather in her keynote mentioned a company turn off SMS overnight. Although this is not practical, Twitter actually stopped the bleeding by only allowing paid members to set up SMS as a two-factor authentication. I realize this isn't always practical because you want to improve, you want to increase adoption for 2FA. So consider limiting the countries that you're allowing a user to set up SMS 2FA from. When you do restrict the country codes, make sure you apply defense in depth, where you take away the country code on the front end, restrict the country code from being used on the back end, and work with your SMS provider to establish a deny list of all the countries that you're allowing to let in, so that the attackers can't drive the bill up at the source. And you can also prevent fraudulent email domains from entering your system. Inter-Aisle Consulting found that there are multiple general top-level domains like .top, .xyz that are attracting scammers because they have rock-bottom prices and no meaningful registration requirements. These domains are often used for phishing attacks, but surprise, these domains are also used as financial fraud as well. When you see these domains, establish a deny list, stop these email domains from entering your system, and you can also sprinkle some AI on it. You can use AI to detect, in this example, AI could be wrong, but you could use AI to detect whether the attributes on the sign-up form could be fraudulent, like they're following some gibberish names, for example. You could set alerts, and when these alerts are happening at scale, something's probably going on. And you can also use AI to help detect whether an email is following an email tumbling technique or fraud patterns. After you set up the monitors and the remediation techniques, put together a playbook. The key to stopping an attack as they are happening is a well-written playbook. Put down what to do when you see the alerts, what to look at, what the incident is, how to detect these, the queries you usually run to detect anomalies, dashboards where you're outlining the SMS endpoints, how to mitigate these, your existing rate limit rules, your SMS endpoints, and the relevant code paths that your devs put in. And try to have controls where you do not need a code deploy, because deployments could take a long time. Have controls where you can adjust allow list or deny list on the fly, and make sure you link this playbook and all of the monitors that you've set up. Let's do a quick recap. So today we've learned about what IRSF is, international revenue share fraud. We've learned about related terms like artificial inflated traffic, SMS pumping, how they make money by colluding with operators and IPRN providers. We learned how the attack takes shape. They find a way to onboard into your system and take advantage of your SMS endpoints. We see how we can detect the attack by various angles of anomaly detection, usually through traffic spikes, user spikes, or new country codes being used. We learn how to mitigate an attack by auditing your rate limit rules, add to it, make it stricter, and have a clear playbook and attach it to all of your alerts and monitors. And you can find the resources. We did the research here. And I hope everyone has learned about what IRSF is. Thank you so much for coming to our first talk of the conference. Huge thank you to Sam Frenchy Stewart, who helped us do the dry run, and Brian Boland, who's here with us today, who nudged us to, submit our first CFP, and for helping us with the presentation. And yeah, we are hiring, so hit that PR link.
Well, thank you, Vien and Senthil. All right, well. Question and answer time. We do have one question in the queue, but as a reminder, we have about 7 minutes left, and we're going to put a pretty hard deadline here. So get your questions in for this last talk of the day in this theater. Again, slide.do. I believe that QR code is correct, but if not, I'll just kind of tell you what it is in case you don't like scanning codes with your phones, you paranoid security people. That is slide.do, so sli.do is the domain. The code you want to enter in there is BSidesSF 2025, and you go to Theater 15. I know we're in 14, but 15 is where it's categorized, and we had to stick with that. So let us go look at this first question here, which looked good to me. So if fraudsters are actively colluding with the network providers to carry out this kind of attack, is it legal, and are they being prosecuted?
So I think that's why I think like it's an undisclosed and unregulated market. It's been really hard to find out and track the fraudsters. We actually had tried like working with some of the UCAS providers like Telesign to figure out like if they can be tracked down. Usually they operate outside of US, but if they are in the US, you can usually track them out and then find out and prosecute them. But generally these are not inside US. They are always outside, so it's very difficult to find out and prosecute them.
Can you perhaps solve it by whitelisting premium prefixes or deny listing? Can you detect premium prefixes prior to texting them?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, is there a way by looking at the number programmatically to determine if it's a premium service or not?
It's highly difficult to figure out, like by looking at the numbers, you kind of not figure out, like it's not going to be easier for us. It could be like any random number that's being there. Yeah.
Can you put the resources slide back on again while we ask the next question? And we'll just let that sit there. I'm going to ask this question though. How did you figure out this attack was happening to you? Beyond what you told us, did someone know about IRSF on your team, or did you have to piece this together from scratch?
We had to, nobody knew about it. Like we learned on the fly when this attack was happening in our system on the fly. Yeah. Nobody knew about it. Like we came to know, like looking at like the same way, looking at the normal traffic, the fraudulent traffic, the user sign up spiking. Those are the ways that we figured out like something like this is happening. Yeah.
Does anyone here need the QR code of the Slido screen again though? Just specific as I asked for the resource screen to be on because that seems to be popular. Okay, we seem to be good there. Well, we've run out of Slido questions for now. Let some trickle in. Maybe you're perhaps embarrassed to type something into a device anonymously. I know that doesn't make sense, but if you're here in the theater and it makes more sense to vocalize your question, I'll give you the chance to do that. Try to make it short so we can make it as a question and repeat it. So if you have anything, just raise your hand and I'll try to attend to it. And as a reminder, we're all participants here. Some are in the role of speaker right now, but this is a community of peers. So your question is probably completely relevant and something that someone else wants to know too. Oh, okay, well, we got some. What tools do you use for detection engineering?
Vien, you want to talk about it?
Detection engineering. I think we use mainly Datadog for detection, and unfortunately, detection engineering is another team on our org. So I'm not really sure what tools are being used, but I think they're talking to a lot of vendors out there on the BSides floor as well. Yeah.
Well, it seems like that we probably got a pretty good end there. Thank you again, Vien and Senthil. We find ourselves at the end of the conference, at least as far as this room goes. You can probably find Senthil and Vien in the room outside or in the closing ceremony, which is coming up right now-ish, 5 o'clock, I believe. Is that correct, Anthony? In Theater 13. That's the only thing that's going to be remaining open at this point. So this becomes a regular movie theater very shortly. And if you want to donate anything you leave here to the next people who come in and to watch a movie, that's how you do it. You leave it in this theater. So don't leave anything here that you particularly want. We won't be able to retrieve it because the conference is closing down. And I just want to thank you all for being here for this last and wonderful presentation.